Top Lashkar-e-Taiba terrorist Abu Dujana was killed by security forces in the Kashmir Valley today in an encounter that took place in the Pulwama district. A Pakistani national, Dujana was wanted for several attacks on security forces and political workers, particularly in South Kashmir. The killing is a big win for security forces as they step up anti-terror ops and their crackdown on separatists.
Abu Dujana, the head of Lashkar-e-Taiba in Kashmir, one of India's most wanted, killed by security forces in a pre-dawn operation in Pulwama. Dujana, the biggest terrorist to be eliminated since Burhan Wani, was a Pakistani national and had travelled to the village of Hakripora to meet his wife. He was killed by the police, CRPF and the army who were involved in a joint operation.
Abu Dujana, but in his operational capability in the last 1 year or so, what we have seen, he was not involved in too many operations. We of course will now keep hunting for the other leaders in this area.
As the encounter was going on, intense stone pelting in the area meant that security forces had to carry out the operation while dealing with rioting mobs. One protester was killed in police firing. In the end, security forces got their target.
It was a clean operation, but for civilian casualty, he had become more a nuisance in the area by way of, I don't want to use those words.
Police say killing of Abu Dujana is a huge blow to militancy and Lashkar-e-Taiba in South Kashmir. Dujana had plotted a number of attacks on security forces and was a key recruiter of LeT until he was sidelined and replaced by another Lashkar operative, Abu Ismail, a few months ago. In Srinagar, Nazir Masoodi for NDTV.
Well, I spoke earlier today to the Deputy Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, Dr. Nirmal Singh. Dr. Singh, a big breakthrough for security forces today with the killing of Abu Dujana. What impact is this going to have on the ground?
First of all, I will compliment our security forces, including Army, Central Security Forces and particularly our Jammu and Kashmir Police to achieve this, because he was the person who was the head of Lashkar-e-Taiba and he was active in Jammu and Kashmir right from 2010. And after a number of operations, because he escaped number of operations, but now he is caught and he has been eliminated. It has given a great jolt to terrorist network in Kashmir Valley, especially in South Kashmir, and ultimately you will see that the situation will further improve in South Kashmir.
Well, Dr. Singh, the challenge though remains with the local population. Again today, when this encounter was going on, there were protests at the encounter site. You've had to shut down schools and colleges. The internet has been suspended. Is this actually, in a sense, a bigger challenge right now?
Definitely, when a person, a terrorist is killed, and it was a routine matter here that the people, they reacted, and the majority of them, they were forced to react. And you see that after we impose certain restrictions, now the demonstration, the number and the number of demonstrations, they have very lessened. They have very decreased, and today there were some protests in a few colleges, 2-3 colleges, whereas the civilian population, they didn't react. So that shows that the people of Kashmir, they are fed up with such people, and now they are not reacting, because earlier they were forced to react.
Who are the people?
After imposing,
but Dr. Singh, who are the people who came out at the encounter site today? I mean, are they all being forced to do that?
They were the local people, as I told you, that they are forced, because these are the people who have certain elements who force these people to come to the site. There may be some interested people, but majority of the people, they are forced to come on that site. And ultimately, you see that the number is decreasing day by day, because when there is no scare from the side of these terrorists, or the threat is lessening. Now the people, they are not responding to such situations. When there is a call from the terrorist
Well, let me ask you though, sir, about the PDP alliance as well. Is there actually a rift with your alliance partner over the crackdown on separatists, in which we've seen that security forces are stepping up on that as well? Mehbooba Mufti is said to be unhappy. She's publicly said on this that you can't kill an idea, you can't jail an idea. Is something wrong?
I don't know in which context she was saying, but definitely the people who are supporting terrorism, who are getting money from Pakistan, and they are creating a situation where civilians and other people, they are being killed. So anybody who is involved in it, he has to be taken to task, and there is a law of land, and NIA is working within the parameters of that law. So I think this NIA raids here, arrest of this Hurriyat people, that has given a great breakthrough against terrorism, terrorist operators in Jammu and Kashmir, and that's why the situation has improved here.
Well, Dr. Singh, Mehbooba Mufti has also warned against the stopping of cross-LOC trade. There are reports that the NIA may want to move to suspend cross-LOC trade. Is there any move to do so?
Actually, trade was started with a very good attention, and this beginning was made during Atal Bihari Vajpayee's time, because that was for people-to-people contact, and there should be a trade so that our relations they improve. But when there is a security risk, definitely the security agencies, especially the NIA, has suggested certain measures, steps in this regard. They have the concern, so they have raised their concern. But when CM was saying this, she was talking in a larger context.
But you say that she's talking in a larger context, but there, are there any differences or different points of view within the alliance on this crackdown on the Hurriyat?
There is no difference in this alliance partners over the measures against terrorism, and whosoever is involved in terrorist activities, whether they are supporting it, abetting it, or they are directly involved in it, there's a difference over the within the alliance over this issue.
Well, Dr. Singh, one final question. Mehbooba Mufti says that dialogue is not appeasement. So is there a contradiction here between what she's saying and what you're saying? No. She, as I said, that she may be talking in the larger context, because it's mentioned in our agenda of alliance that we shall create a situation where this dialogue can be followed. But dialogue with whom? Whether we can have dialogue with those people who have gun in their hands, whether we can have dialogue with those who are supporting terrorism, that's not possible. So she may be talking in the larger context. All right, well, we'll know whether it was the larger context or some other context, but Dr. Nirmal Singh, thanks very much for joining us. Well, joining us on the program now is General Bikram Singh, the former Chief of Army Staff. Here in the studio with us, Defence Analyst Ajay Shukla. We have Praveen Swami, the Strategic Affairs Editor of the Indian Express, also with us this evening. General Singh, to you first, how big a victory is this for security forces? If you could put that into perspective for us, to have killed Abu Dujana today.
Nidhi, it's a very significant operation success for the army, for the security forces, and it does actually boost the morale of the security forces. But more importantly, what has emerged from today's operation, some of the aspects that I noticed is one, that it highlights a very good synergy today, which is there amongst the security forces, the police, the Central Armed Police Forces, the CRPF, and the army. That is something very significant, very, very important. That is very good. The other thing, it was a very clean operation, you would have seen. And, yes, there was one civilian who was killed, but then I think that was the mistake of the civilian, because he was trying to actually interrupt the operations being carried out by the security forces. The other thing is very significant, which I observed today, was that we've gone back to the earlier format where we used to manage perceptions through a joint public broadcast or engagement of the press. And I'm glad today that the co-commander, along with GOC Victor Force and IGP Kashmir, they engaged the media today. They brought out the facets of this operation, and they also reached out and
gave very explicit message to people, including the stone pelters who sort of intrude in the military operations, in the security forces operations, that you try this, you will be getting a bullet. So I think I find that the operation is significant, but more importantly, what is the fallout of this, what I saw when you analyze this particular operation. Along with this, Nidhi, what is more important again is that it's a regular attrition that is occurring, I find, now on the terrorists. Mind you, as per the figures which are there, this year 106 terrorists have been killed, out of which 33 are from Lashkar-e-Taiba. And at an average, 13 to 15 terrorists are being killed, by the security forces, which is a very, very good figure, and I think a healthy sign. Also an indicator that, mind you, there is agitational fatigue amongst the population, and intelligence is forthcoming. People are coming forward and giving intelligence regarding the terrorists.
I think those are all very important points, and I'd like to take those first to Siddique Wahid, the Senior Visiting Fellow at the Center for Policy Research, joining us from Srinagar. What General Singh said, Siddique, a couple of aspects, because the situation in Kashmir, one is a security aspect of it, the other is sort of the political alienation. But agitational fatigue is what General Singh is saying. Today also you did have people coming out at the encounter site. One civilian unfortunately has also been killed. Do you believe that still remains a key challenge for the political establishment to deal with, or is there, do you sense as well, now that these crackdowns have stepped up, some kind of fatigue that is setting in?
Nidhi, when you're getting killed day after day, I mean, and when you have the kind of sort of confrontations that you're having, there will be an element of fatigue. But does that mean that somehow the problem is going to go away? I think that that's a stretch, and I think that that's very far. What are we facing? We are facing a government that says that it's going to deal with the whole situation with force, number one. Number two is that I think that states and empires, in a sense, need to create enemies, and if there are not enemies, they will create ghost enemies. And some of for example, I mean, some of these names, they are new to me. I've never heard of them. And I'm trying to wonder, I'm wondering as to, how suddenly, there are icons that are there are icons that are created, or are they really there? I don't know. I mean, I'm not a security expert. I would be the last one to say that. And I'm not an expert on the violent parts, of the conflict. As such.
But what are you suggesting? So are you suggesting that? Are you suggesting that that you had not heard of Abu Dujana until today? That in a sense that he's been hyped up as this big figure who has been killed?
Well, frankly, I had not heard of Abu Dujana until today. But that's not, I'm not sort of on the ground in that sense. But what I am suggesting, to answer your question, what I am suggesting is that for anywhere from 500,000 to 700,000 armed personnel, to be sort of making the kind of inroads, if you will, into the militant organizations and so forth, to me, it doesn't seem to be a big surprise, at this stage. And so therefore, what I'm suggesting is that if there is a feeling that the problem is going to go away because of these, or that, because there is a temporary sense of exhaustion and fatigue, if you will, that the problem is going to go away, I think we're sorely mistaken.
All right. Well, let me take that to Praveen first. Praveen, both on what General Bikram Singh and what Siddique have commented on, let me get your first thoughts. How big a target was Abu Dujana, just from a security perspective? And B, does that political challenge still very much remain?
Well, I've been reporting on Abu Dujana since 2014 when he first came to the Kashmir Valley. And I think had he been killed even 6 months back or a year back, this would have been, in conventional terms, more important. We call him a leader of the Lashkar-e-Taiba, but the fact of the matter is, for the last several months, his relationship with the Lashkar was extremely poor, and he'd been drifting towards this sort of, if you like, gaggle of malcontents from the Hizbul Mujahideen and other tanzeems, who've now formed what Al-Qaeda calls the Jamaat Ghazwatul Hind, this new sort of Al-Qaeda franchise organization in Kashmir. It's anyone's guess how important this organization is going to be, whether it's actually going to be able to build together a core of young people from Kashmir who are fed up with the sort of established jihadi organizations and want to turn towards these sort of global jihadist organizations instead. But I think it's far more useful to look at Dujana as the sort of harbinger of the new rather than as some kind of Al-Qaeda figure. Having said that, I have to agree with Siddiq. I mean, this year has seen an extraordinary level of security force success, and that's all for the well. Of course, it means that people are coming and giving information to the police. It means the security grid's been restored. But the fact of the matter is there is a political vacuum, and until that political vacuum is restored, you're not going to have a durable problem, because young people will go on engaging in street violence or drifting towards jihadi tanzeems. Where I would probably disagree with Dr. Wahid is in saying that, I don't think the answer is to talk to the Hurriyat. I don't think the answer lies in this classic thing Delhi's gone on for years about talking to separatists. I think the answer lies in actually having some sort of credible and leadership rising from the grassroots in Jammu and Kashmir. Sadly, there's no sign of that happening within the established political parties. And I think for that reason, this is going to be a long haul. This is not something Delhi can manufacture out of thin air. It's a challenge for the political parties and for Kashmir's people.
Well, let me ask Ajay here then, Ajay, first, to first comment on then how the politics of this is playing out, because you can clearly see strains in the PDP-BJP alliance, no matter how much Dr. Nirmal Singh denies it and talks of other contexts that Mehbooba Mufti may be speaking in. But this has sort of really boxed her into a corner, hasn't it? The crackdown on separatists, and yet at the same time, one feels little sympathy for the Hurriyat and all of this. Do you see a clear shift in the centre's policy where they have hardened their position and they're going to go after these guys and leave no room for compromise?
Yes, absolutely. The rift between the PDP and the BJP is now completely apparent. I'm surprised that it's not been so apparent in the past, because there is an inherent dissonance in the coming together of these two parties, and it was never going to work. So in that sense, you've got in an improving security situation on the ground. You've got the police coming into its own again in southern Kashmir. You've got militants being killed at a higher rate than they've been killed for several years now. So in that sense, the security grid seems to be looking good. But the political grid on which the security grid has to, if you like, hang, is completely non-workable. The entire mainstream political framework on which India's presence has sort of rested in Jammu and Kashmir for all these years is effectively not there any longer. Mehbooba is so badly discredited, including in her core areas of southern Kashmir, which is why all the supporters of Mehbooba are now shifting over to support the militants instead in southern Kashmir, and that's why southern Kashmir is so bad. So I think that unless you have this political framework up and running once again, unless the central government does something to make sure there's a credible political representation over there, I think we'll just keep going through this cycle of violence and counter-violence, and the Forge will, feel happy at having restored the situation, but then it will again slide back into...
So I would like to ask General Singh on that point, because as Ajay also pointed out, and Praveen as well, that at least for security forces, yes, things are looking much better today than they did perhaps 2 months ago. As Ajay was pointing out, they have more kills, they're getting a grip on the situation slowly in South Kashmir. But sir, how do you deal with the political issue at hand? How do you, for instance, as Praveen said, prevent young men from still taking to these ranks? I mean, they know that joining militancy is essentially a death certificate, but they're still doing it. General Singh?
You asked me?
Yeah,
oh, sorry.
Yeah, sir.
Well, these young fellows who are joining the terrorist tanzeems, I have written a couple of columns on this, that unless you give some vocations, some jobs to the locals in Jammu and Kashmir, you will find that this is an easy way out. Like in Pakistan, for example, when a person doesn't have a job, the easiest thing is to pick up a gun and take a stipend of 7,000 to 8,000 rupees per month. Same is the thing over here. We have to generate jobs. We've got to make sure that there are jobs which come up. And along with this, we have to carry on with the operations. And while talking on the political facet, now I just want to highlight one aspect. It's very easy. I find a lot of people talking about political vacuum and political, aspects not being looked into. Look, there is the political, democratically elected government in place. If politically we are talking about the Hurriyat and the separatists, well, I think they've got to be marginalized and neutralized, as is being done by the government from the center now. And I think it's being done as per law of the land, and that's the right way to move forward.